Welcome to episode 106 of Uncovering the Corners of the World podcast. I'm your host, Karina Kasmala. Using research and my personal experiences where I actually set foot in some of these places, I'll be describing some of the unknown attractions in both the US and around the world, as well as share some of the hidden landmarks of some well-known places. This week I talked with my good friend Collin about his long-awaited trip to New Mexico. He is the host of the historical and film podcast, History from the Back Pages, and the sports podcast called Chicago Soccer Talk with Collin. He also co-hosts the sports podcast called the Bull and Hawk Sports Show with his friend Ben. Collin is also a regular guest on my podcast, where he previously shared his thrilling adventures ziplining in Wisconsin, attending a Rolling Stones concert in Pennsylvania, sightseeing in Alaska, and diving into the history of Starbucks coffee beans in Costa Rica. New Mexico has been a state he always wanted to visit and wished he could have explored it longer.
How was your trip to New Mexico?
Very exciting and a lot of interesting activities and places I got to see. I'd never been to New Mexico, so it was my first time. And I haven't really been to the Southwest itself in ages, because I've been to Arizona, but that was a long time.
Oh, why New Mexico? Because I remember you went sometime in the summer this year, right? Correct?
Yes, so that was in August, beginning of August was when I went to New Mexico.
Okay.
And I wanted to go to New Mexico for a while. I thought it'd be a fun state to visit, and it's a lot different than some of the states I've been to recently.
In what way?
Outdoors is really important, and like the type of history and just the state itself is a lot different. Like going to New Mexico is completely different than, for example, going to Alaska, which I think was the most recent state I've not been to that I visited, and they're not very similar at all. And I go to a lot of the Midwest states like Indiana and Wisconsin and Michigan and Chicago and Illinois. They're all completely different than New Mexico.
How long was your trip there?
Too short. I wish it was longer, but I didn't have a lot of days because depending on my work schedule. But I got to be there 5 days.
Okay.
I think it was 5. So I think I left on a Friday, and then I want to say I came back for Wednesday. So I think 5 days.
You said your mom was from New Mexico, is that right? So one of your parents, I remember you told me, they're from there? Yes?
So my mom grew up in Rogers Park, so in the Chicago area. During high school, she moved with my grandma to New Mexico. So she went to high school in New Mexico, college in New Mexico, and then graduate school in New Mexico.
Okay.
And then she met my dad in grad school while she was in New Mexico.
Oh, how sweet. Now, did you go alone, or did you go with your mom, your dad, or did you stay with anyone in New Mexico?
I went with my mom and sister, but the part of New Mexico we went to was Santa Fe, which is not where she lived. That was in Las Cruces, which is savored, and that's closer to Mexico, but Santa Fe is more northern. My dad was going to go, but he was unable to do some stuff going on.
Where did you specifically go?
Santa Fe was our main destination we went to.
Okay.
And then also Taos, which is even more northern than Santa Fe. We went there. Mm-hmm. And I can go more into detail, of course, about my trip. But the main 2 places was Santa Fe, Taos, and then we went to a smaller town that was really fun that I'll talk about later. Short trip, we went to Santa Fe. We stayed in the plaza, so downtown Santa Fe, which is where you want to stay if you're going to visit Santa Fe, because Santa Fe is very tourist town. Most people go to Santa Fe are tourists, so either in New Mexico or out of state. Especially a lot of people out of state go to Santa Fe. So we stayed right on the plaza at our hotel, so we got a view of the plaza, and it's kind of hard to describe, but lots of shops, lots of restaurants, lots of historical monuments and buildings right on the plaza, so you get a really good view of the history of Santa Fe from the hotel. There's this gorgeous church, St. Francis. It's right nearby, and you get a good view of that, which is gorgeous.
St. Francis is a Catholic church, yes?
That's right.
Okay.
The state, New Mexico, is very, very Catholic. Lots of gorgeous Catholic churches are located there. So we stayed in that hotel. It's a good choice because they had valet parking, so your car could be parked at valet, and it was easy access, so it was handy. Santa Fe isn't that parking friendly because it's not a lot of space. It's smaller.
Now, you say valet parking. Does that mean you drove to New Mexico, or did you fly in and rent a car?
Flew in and rented a car because that made the most sense. We rented a car at Santa Fe Airport, and then we used that the whole trip. And I highly recommend, if you're going to New Mexico, either drive or fly in and rent a car, because a lot of stuff you can't do if you don't have a car. Because a lot of the best stuff's like farther out, like in the mountains, or like farther out of Santa Fe city limits. Like you can't go there if you don't have a car.
There's no public transportation in New Mexico, or it's not common?
There's this train, but like it only goes to specific places. I think you can take it from Santa Fe to Albuquerque, from what I remember. And then there's the buses, but like they don't go like far out. It's not like you can take a bus like an hour out or something. Well, let's keep going. So we had a good first day. We went to this Mexican restaurant. If you want Mexican food, of course, New Mexico, very good.
I must ask, what did you order? If you remember.
That burrito. The first day I ordered I think it was a steak burrito, I believe. The only bummer about their restaurant was that their fryer was broken. That was the only thing I remember that was a bummer. So I wanted to have like chips, and their IPS broken. That was the only bummer. So high marks for the food. So overall, all the food was very good during our trip. The 5 days we were there, all the restaurants were good, and some had different types of Mexican food because they vary depending on what cultural influences the restaurant takes. Because we went to this one Mexican restaurant that focused on southern Mexican cuisine, which is a lot different than northern.
Really? Is it just different spices, or is it different dishes?
Yeah, different spices, or they focus on maybe quesadillas or tacos compared to burritos, depending on the spices and what they put in the burritos or the food.
That's interesting. I never thought of it that way. I know there's Tex-Mex Mexican, a mix of Tex-style cuisine, but I didn't think of it northern and then southern.
Southern's closer to Mexico, so they take different influences than upper. Because there was one restaurant we went to that focused on southern, and it was good. You can thank my mom for those tidbits, because she was able to describe it, because she lived in southern New Mexico. And let's see what else. Oh, I tried this one dish that was very fun. They're famous for Frito pies. Have you had that before?
No.
It was invented there. So it's a Frito pie. It's basically what you think. It's Fritos, the chips. Then with beans, and then chili and cheese. Chili, cheese, beans, and Fritos. But I really liked it. I went to this restaurant that was famous for their Frito pie, so I'm well, let me try that. The restaurant went there for the Frito pie was in Taos, one of the towns I'll talk about, and that was cool to go there. Now let me talk about some of the activities. So in Santa Fe, some activities we did were going to different museums. So this one place to stay out in Santa Fe there's this famous legend that there's a staircase, so it's the Loretto Chapel, and it's run by the Sisters of Loretto. It's a Catholic chapel.
Okay. And
the legend is that they needed stairs to be built, and this man came off the street and built the stairs. And the legend is that it was Jesus. So that Jesus rode in on a donkey into town and then built the stairs. Oh. But it's stunning because it's a spiral staircase, so the staircase spirals. And the legend is that Jesus came on a donkey and did it, and then he asked for no payment and then left in a couple of days. Because the sisters prayed to God for help because they were at the 9th day, and they we need a savior to come build this staircase. So then the man came on a donkey, and all his name was Jesus. Carl Trey's staircase is super cool. I know I sent pictures of it, but you could look it up too. It's cool. It costs a couple of dollars, donation to go into, because it's a museum. So you can see the spiral staircase and take pictures in front of it, next to it. You can't use it, of course, because it's sacred. But
was it made out of these stairs made out of wood, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was made out of wood, and since Jesus is a carpenter, he's able to come and build it immediately.
Okay, because I'm just picturing that. If the legend is true, then these stairs, if they're sacred, then no one has decided to repair them or done anything to preserve them, but keep them as best intact as possible, since they don't want the stairs to rot away. That's what I'm thinking.
Because the church isn't that old, from what I remember. I don't think it's that old. I want to say it's from the 1800s, but because I don't think it's that old from what I remember. But that's why it's more stunning. Like, it was modern day period that Jesus came in on a donkey, the legend. So not like during Christ's period and came in. Like, that makes sense. But no, this is like more modern. Like 18th century. We went to these shops. Like, if you go to the town square, there's a lot of shopping, like Native American artifacts, Native American jewelry, Native American rugs. Because New Mexico is interesting. It has Native American influence and Mexican influence. There's a lot of tribal land near Santa Fe.
Did you buy anything specific, or did you just look around?
I think those who just looked around and like looked at the different vendors, because they have the classic art, like stuff for sale, like the jewelry, like the green colored one. I don't remember what gemstone that is. They're popular, especially in like Southwest Arizona or Mexico is popular. If you looked it up, you immediately recognize it, probably, but it's escaping me the name. Like turquoise type color. It could be turquoise or something like that. And it was interesting seeing the different stuff for sale. And of course, we went to the stores that sold like gifts from New Mexico, but that was interesting too.
Was there any specific tribes, or there's a lot of different tribes, Native American tribes in New Mexico that showcase their artifacts?
Yeah, stuff for sale. There are different tribes. I'm blanking on a lot of the tribe names because we passed through a lot of res land. So where we were traveling out of city limits, we'd pass through res. And they let you know automatically. So if you're entering res land, so you know you're entering the tribal land. One key indicator, too, is knowing entering res land and on the tribe is that a lot of the tribes have new casinos. Like, that's one of their sources of income. One of the tribal lands we entered was like a brand new casino. It was like everyone must go. Like, it was ginormous. I can't remember the names of the tribes. I apologize. It was too long ago. Let's see, other things we did around town. I guess I'll talk about the stuff around town, and then I'll talk about stuff out of Santa Fe. So we went to this one store that was nice in Santa Fe. They sold lots of pottery and like gems and like vases and different stuff that was cool. And like statues. I think it's the Rainbow Man. That's the name of the store. I bought some stuff for my mom there. I liked the store. There's like handmade art like collection. It was nice. We went to the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum. That was a big highlight in Santa Fe. So if you're a fan of George O'Keeffe, the artist who's famous for doing New Mexican art, the museum is pretty good. They had a lot of her famous works, and then ones I didn't know as well that were on display, so it was nice to see those. And it was nice to see a lot of her work that was more Southwest influence. Because some of her exhibits I've seen not that long ago was more like her time somewhere else. But they just more focused on what she did painting in New Mexico. And the thing interesting about her is when she lived in New Mexico, it was a lot different than like as of today. It was way more rural, like when she was living there.
So I assume most of her paintings have that rural influence, or...
Yeah, and she moved like in a home studio, like in our area in New Mexico. They weren't in Santa Fe, from what I believe, but like those were more far out, like farm type ranch. Because she had a ranch in one of the towns, just escaping me. That was interesting, the museum. And my sister's a huge fan, so like that was one reason we went. She's a huge fan of George O'Keeffe. And then trying to think of what else we did in Santa Fe. We went to churches, so different churches besides the Loretto Chapel. Like St. Francis, we went there. And that was a very nice church. Because it's a cathedral, so it's very large size. Lots of people want to get married there, so it's one of those like Catholic cathedrals to get married at.
Was there any artwork specific that made it a lovely church that people want to get married in, or is it just because of its size?
Location for sure, like downtown Plaza, Santa Fe, so like location is amazing for a wedding. And then it's historical, building's been there a long time, so also that's helpful. And then the architecture was very nice, with like the crosses they used and different statues of the St. Francis. And they had a big gift shop, so I guess you like gifts, I'm sure. Those are the main things we did in Santa Fe, the town, going to churches, trying different food. We visited the Capitol building, but we didn't go inside. We just went outside. So it was nice to see the Capitol building. A lot of the places I visited lately ended up being the state capitol.
Coincidence or planned?
Well, this one was planned. And then when I went to Alaska, it was Juneau, which was part of the cruise, so I guess that was planned. And then we're in Nebraska, I went to see my sister. That was planned, so that wasn't counted. I'll move on from Santa Fe. So then we went to Taos. That was another town we went to visit.
How far is that from Santa Fe?
Taos is like more than an hour up north. So Taos, if you don't like mountain driving, I would say don't go. because you're heading into the mountains. So you're driving up mountains, like twists and turns up the mountains. Because Mexico has a lot of highway driving, and then it goes into like the mountains, which this place was up in Taos. It's an artist colony, so like that's one of the highlights of going to Taos. The art they have, so lots of art galleries, art museums, and different like history about how Taos has evolved over time.
How did it evolve over time?
Well, it was a really small art community. Like a select group of artists like moved there, but now it's like a real town, so it's bigger size. And just like Santa Fe, lots of people want to go there for tourists because it's very, very gorgeous. It's up in the mountains and beautiful trees and rocks, and like definitely a good place to visit. I liked going to Taos because it was nice and the food was good there too. And it's definitely a good place to visit. Like I bought a hat there and a shirt, both say Taos on them. Funny enough, during this recording, I'm actually wearing my hat I got in Taos. I wore it purposely for the podcast.
Oh, that's great. Now I feel bad that I'm not doing a video podcast.
Oh, it's all right. Because that, for the viewers, it's a yellow hat, and then it says, in like black writing, Taos, like the Mexican state symbol. And we liked Taos. And then I went to the, oh my goodness, I'm blanking on his name. I loved it. He was one of the wild pioneers, like frontiersmen from a while ago. I wanted to go there because he was big back in the day. Like he was one of the first people who really settled in New Mexico and put a big imprint on the state. And he fought against the Native Americans, and like it'll come to me. But it was very well done because it's a small historical home, so he lived there. So it was where he lived in Taos, and then they made it into a museum, historical museum. But I'm hoping they can continue to stay in business because they're struggling financially. But it was a very well done museum. Oh, here we go. Kit Carson. That's who it was. Kit Carson House Museum. The thing that's funny is that I always picture Kit Carson like 6'5", 250, like ripped. Because like the legends of him are like that. That he was like this muscle-bound guy who was really, I don't know, force of nature. Like even though I knew about him, but then no, he's like short. It was good. It had artifacts from when he lived there. Like his desk was at the museum, which was cool. And then different pictures of like him and his family, and like when he served in the military and served like on frontier. And then they had this cool collection, and it was like comic books made during that period of like the legend of Kit Carson. Like there was this one I liked. It was called Kit Carson and the Trail of Doom, and it was him like on horseback with a hatchet and like revolvers, and he was trying to fight off against the Native Americans.
Maybe that's where they probably made him more buff in the comics, right?
I think that is what happened. Like since it was the West period back then, like the Wild West, and they probably made him more like buff and stuff, legend myth wise.
Thank you, Collin, for joining me on this week's episode. And thank you to everyone for listening to this week's episode. Be sure to check out his podcasts, Chicago Soccer Talk with Collin on YouTube, and History from the Back Pages and the Bull and Hawk Sports Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you find your podcasts. Have a great week.